The young man wanted to confess to the school beauty but was too terrified to speak. Eventually, she had to ask if he liked her. He timidly nodded. She simply said she knew and walked away. Those words felt like a polite rejection. Xingchen understood this and never dared to contact Su Ruo again. However, a reunion years later made his heart skip a beat. Now an adult, he was determined to confess to her once more. Seeing 2 missed calls from her, he practiced explaining that he went to bed early. Soon after, he tried calling back but could not reach her. At that moment, an old classmate named Tang Song invited Xingchen to the police station. Tang Song revealed that Su Ruo was found dead at 6 a.m. The initial cause of death was determined to be a fall from a high place. Xingchen refused to believe it because they had a great chat just last night. She even promised to treat him to dinner another day. After verifying his statement, the police found nothing suspicious. Meanwhile, they discovered a cutout letter in her room. It warned her that she was in danger and should avoid going home. Tang Song argued that Xingchen was the last person to see her. He suspected Xingchen used cutout letters to hide his handwriting and wiped away his fingerprints. Xingchen firmly denied this. He did not even know her home address. He begged Tang Song to take him to the scene. They arrived at an old apartment complex. Only one security camera was installed nearby. The security guard mentioned that the rooftop door was locked from the inside during the incident. The police assumed she locked herself in and jumped. Xingchen was completely heartbroken. He wondered how the woman he loved could leave this world in just half a day. He asked himself if picking up the phone earlier would have changed her fate. He wondered if she was terrified when she called him. Xingchen lay on the rooftop trying to feel her pain. He felt like he had been through so much. When he finally woke up, he found himself sitting in his old classroom. He thought it was a dream. At that moment, Mr. Jiang walked in to announce that their class ranked the lowest in the recent mock exam. Xingchen actually missed his teacher's harsh words. He tried poking his deskmate Zhang Jie. Suddenly, the dream felt incredibly real. Mr. Jiang asked Xingchen about his test score to justify teasing a classmate. His smile quickly vanished when Su Ruo walked through the door. She apologized for being late and not finishing her homework. Xingchen spoke up to defend her. He stated that everyone gets busy, so the teacher should just focus on the lesson. Mr. Jiang called him disrespectful and punished him to write a long apology letter. Later that day, Xingchen gazed at her familiar back after everyone else had left. He remembered his old habit of staying late to wait for her so they could walk home together. He approached her and asked if something was bothering her. Then he realized that, even in a dream, she still ignored him. From the back of the room, Tang Song called out to tell him it was time to leave. Xingchen walked out of the school gate but still did not wake up. He went home and reunited with his late mother. Missing her usual complaints, he immediately gave her a tight hug. During dinner, his father told him to study hard. However, Xingchen confidently stated he would get into the physics department at Dongcheng University. Then, he reminded his mother to get regular stomach checkups. She told him not to worry and mentioned a family trip for National Day next year. Xingchen was startled and looked at the calendar. It was 2 days past National Day. He suddenly remembered that Su Ruo lost her parents in a car accident right around this holiday. Back then, no one knew about it. Everyone only saw her take a few days off from school. Su Ruo must be incredibly lonely. At just 17, she was already forced to be strong. Bumping into Xingchen on the street, Mr. Jiang urged his student to go home and do homework. He sighed since his teacher was still playing a role in this dream. He simply told Mr. Jiang that her parents had been in an accident. Unsure if it was true, the teacher still handed him an umbrella. In the pouring rain, Xingchen ran everywhere looking for Su Ruo. Eventually, he spotted her standing across the street. He rushed over to share the umbrella, but she rejected his care. She also told him not to follow her. Xingchen told her she needed to take care of herself first. If she caught a cold, no one would be there to look after her. He then offered to walk her home. Hearing this, Su Ruo could no longer hold back and broke down in tears in front of him. He gently embraced her and offered his shoulder to cry on. Arriving at her door, he reminded her to dry her hair. She went inside to grab a towel for him to dry off. Knowing she lived with her uncle, Xingchen felt relieved and left. However, on the stairs, he bumped into a drunk man. Soon after, he caught a man in black staring at him. He breathed a sigh of relief when the stranger just pulled out a key to open a door. At that moment, Xingchen suddenly felt dizzy. He woke up on the rooftop and guessed he had finally snapped out of the dream. Right then, Tang Song called to report a new police clue. On the night of the incident, a man in black followed her into the building. He did not leave until the next morning. Xingchen mentioned he had encountered this exact man in his dream. Tang Song explained that Xingchen was brought in because of his sharp observation skills. He still remembered that back in their senior year, Xingchen was the only one who noticed she was going through a hard time. Xingchen then questioned how Tang Song knew when her parents passed away. Tang Song replied that Mr. Zhang informed the class 3 days after the crash. Xingchen remembered revealing that exact detail to the teacher in his dream. He wondered if history had actually changed because of him. Based on information online, he guessed he had entered a parallel world. Meanwhile, the class president texted to invite everyone to pay their respects to Su Ruo. At the funeral, Xingchen ran into his old desk mate. Coincidentally, Zhang Jie worked at the funeral home. The class president recalled how the boys used to sneak extra breakfast for Su Ruo back in school. Because of that, her desk was always packed with food. However, none of those boys showed up to the funeral today. Later, Zhang Jie stepped out to remind Xingchen to see her one last time. Taking this chance, he apologized for losing the love letter Zhang Ji wrote to Hao Hui years ago. However, Zhang Jie had already forgotten the past. On the way back, the class president remembered that Xingchen used to be quite close to her. Xingchen explained that he had lost her love letter back then. At that moment, he ran into Hao Hui and decided to confess on her behalf. To his surprise, the bookworm coldly analyzed that having a crush was just a hormone-driven impulse that had nothing to do with him, afraid she would be upset. Xingchen lied that Hao Hui read the letter but simply did not like her back. Later, Zhang Ji saw him staring affectionately at Su Ruo and angrily stormed off to class. Meanwhile, Xingchen went to Su Ruo old apartment complex. There he encountered the mysterious man in black again. He quickly gave chase, but the man ran too fast. The next day, Xingchen waited for Tang Song in front of the police station. Tang Song reported that they checked the security cameras. It turned out the man in black really did follow Su Ruo last night. However, the police still needed to investigate further. Xingchen noted that 15 years ago, this man lived right below her apartment. If he could dream again, he was determined to confirm if the man was involved with her. Soon after the clock struck exactly 9 p.m., a beam of light suddenly split the space in two. Xingchen knew going back in time was extremely dangerous. However, he wanted to do something for the woman he loved. He reached out and touched the light. Sure enough, he traveled 15 years into the past. This time, Xingchen met Su Ruo first. He asked her to cover for him so he could sneak out of school. Unfortunately, the homeroom teacher was standing right behind them. Mr. Zhang scolded him for littering in the cleaning area. He also guessed that Xingchen was trying to skip the morning quiz by stalling for time. Xingchen quickly praised the teacher for his sharp vision. He added that it was no wonder Mr. Zhang would become the future principal. Hearing this, the teacher was instantly delighted. He told Xingchen to hurry back to class and asked top student Su Ruo to keep an eye on him. Back in the classroom, she returned his washed jacket. She asked for her own shirt back, but he could not remember where he put it. At that moment, Zhang Shun caught them acting close. He started broadcasting everywhere that the school beauty was doing laundry for a boy. Xingchen snatched the jacket back and told her not to mind him. Later in the teacher's office, Mr. Jiang criticized Xingchen for his declining grades. Right then, Su Ruo arrived to ask for a few days off. She wondered if he had told everyone about her family situation. During the self-study period, Xingchen asked Tang Song to go find her. Unexpectedly, Mr. Jiang blocked them at the door. He announced that the National Chemistry Olympiad was approaching. Anyone who won an award would get bonus points for the college entrance exam. He selected Hao Hui and Su Ruo to compete and bring honor to the class. He also needed someone to inform her about this. A specialist training session was scheduled for tomorrow. Rennan volunteered, but Zhangshan immediately fought him for the chance. All the boys eagerly wanted to visit the school beauty house. After school, Xingchen rushed straight to the mysterious man house. Seeing no one answer the door, he went upstairs to check on Su Ruo. However, she was not home either. Soon after, Zhangshan came looking for her. Surprisingly, Rennan and the bookworm Hao Hui showed up as well. Not finding her, the three boys left in disappointment. At that moment, they bumped into Xingchen and casually mentioned she was out. Xingchen suddenly spotted the man in black standing far away and frantically chased after him. This time, the man had nowhere left to run. Xingchen wondered why this guy always fled as fast as possible whenever they met. Suddenly, the stranger vaulted over the wall and escaped. Later at the funeral home, Xingchen found Su Ruo looking devastated. She was too scared to go inside and say goodbye to her parents. Xingchen explained that the funeral committee would play music for 3 minutes. After that, a family representative would give a speech. Finally, everyone would bow around the casket to bid farewell to the deceased. As an immediate family member, she had to sign the cremation consent form. Hearing this, she asked him to come inside with her. He replied that it would be inappropriate but promised to wait outside. Then he watched her back as she walked inside. He suddenly recalled the moment he sent her off to the afterlife at her own funeral. Despite everything, he felt lucky to see her again. Su Ruo asked how he knew the funeral process so well. Xingchen explained that he had just said goodbye to a very important person. After safely escaping escorting her home, he finally left with peace of mind. Returning home, Xingchen received a text from Su Ruo. She agreed with him because they both had to learn how to face separation and loss. Xingchen was just like her. He had lost his most beloved family member too. However, in this beautiful past, he could still hold his mother tightly once more. The next day, he met Su Ruo in front of the school gate. She reminded him to finish his homework before Mr. Zhang entered the classroom. Walking past the sports field, Xingchen saw Zhang Xun's father forcing his son to overtrain. Years ago, his father almost made the national team, so he pushed his son even harder. Now, at the broadcasting room, Su Ruo was introducing the Green School Age segment. Xingchen stood outside the door, hanging on to her every word. At that moment, Zhang Xun arrived, asking for a piece of bread. He complained about having to sprint 3,000 meters right after waking up. He wondered if he could actually make the provincial team and stand on the podium. Xingchen recalled that in the future, he never heard of Zhang Xun bringing glory to the school. Back in class, Su Ruo asked Hao Hui to explain advanced physics. Xingchen walked in just as Hao Hui was explaining the concept of time. He sat down and listened intently. Hao Hui stated that time in a moving inertial frame of reference passes slower than in a stationary one. Therefore, according to the theory of relativity, time travel could be possible. Xingchen asked about the grandfather paradox. If a person went back in time and killed their grandfather, they could never be born to travel back in the first place. Hao Hui explained that scientists were recently studying the parallel universe theory. Different choices would create different versions of reality. Su Ruo praised Xingchen for his solid understanding of physics. Soon after, a classmate handed back the physics test, but he only scored 30 points. Su Ruo advised him not to study time travel just yet. Seeing him struggle, she offered to help him review. She completely ignored an angry Ren Nan sitting behind them. Xingchen listened closely while admiring her gentle. At that moment, Zhang Jie needed his help with something. Su Ruo told Xingchen he could ask her questions anytime he did not understand the lessons. Looking at the love letter, he immediately guessed Zhang Jie was sending it to Hao Hui. He promised to hand-deliver it this time. However, he warned her to brace herself because Hao Hui might not like her type. Later, he met Hao Hui in the schoolyard and handed over the letter. Hao Hui disliked the smell of scented paper and asked him to read it out loud. Zhang Jie thought her crush was actually into Su Ruo because his eyes were always on her. Hao Hui recalled that he was only looking at his books and never stared at the school beauty so openly. As Xingchen read the words deskmate, he finally realized Zhang Ji actually liked him. It turned out she had been trying to get his attention all along, so when he claimed he gave the letter to Hao Hui, she instantly knew he was lying. Therefore, whatever explanation he offered meant nothing to her. Now, soon after Xingchen went to see Zhang Jie, he told her he read the entire letter. It was the first time he ever received something so sincere. He thanked her, but admitted he could not return her feelings. Zhang Jie had anticipated this outcome because she knew he liked Su Ruo. However, she thought he was the type who struggled to reject people. She still sent the letter, hoping they could slowly become a couple. Surprisingly, he turned her down completely. Xingchen admired her bravery in confessing her feelings. He was nothing like her back then. Right then, he spotted Su Ruo from afar. He quickly went over to walk her home. Arriving at her place, he looked up and caught the man in black standing on her balcony. He ran upstairs, opened the door, and told her to wait outside. Xingchen checked every room and finally caught the guy. Su Ruo told him to let go. She explained that his name was Zhang Chuan, and he was intellectually disabled. It turned out her dress had fallen onto his balcony. He climbed up to return it to her. Xingchen did not believe it, but Zhang Chuan insisted he would never lie to the person he liked. Su Ruo told him not to climb through the window next time. On the way back, Xingchen figured Zhang Chuan would not be this foolish forever. He warned him never to scale walls no matter who he liked. Zhang Chuan suddenly mentioned that someone was bullying Su Ruo. Before Xingchen could ask for details, he felt dizzy. Fearing he was returning to the future, he frantically asked who was bullying her. Zhang Chuan panicked and pushed him away. At that moment, Su Ruo ran downstairs. However, Xingchen acted like he lost his memory and asked to leave first. Just as he walked away, a man approached. Both Su Ruo and Zhang Chuan looked absolutely terrified. It turned out Xingchen had indeed traveled back to the future. He asked the security guard to let him check the surveillance footage. He still suspected Zhang Chuan, but Tang Song confirmed the man was intellectually disabled. At that moment, his half-sister visited him. After his mother passed away, his father remarried Ningjing mother. She saw a package in the mailbox and brought it up for him. It was a time travel book gifted by Hao Hui. Xingchen wondered why his old friend suddenly sent him a present. Hao Hui remembered that Xingchen was fascinated by time travel in high school, so after finishing this book, he sent a copy to his friend. Xingchen bluntly stated he suspected someone had harmed Su Ruo. Ruo. After hearing the story about Zhangchuan, Haohui concluded he was not the killer. The rooftop door was locked from the inside, creating a locked room mystery. The culprit could have poured water into the lock and waited for it to freeze into a key. Once locked, the ice would melt and the key would disappear. However, it was not cold enough this season for water to freeze quickly. Furthermore, even with a perfect method, an intellectually disabled person could never pull it off. Xingchen lied that he was writing a novel about time traveling. He wanted Haohui to explain what triggered the time leaps. Haohui theorized that every time Xingchen went back, the timeline he left behind would branch into a parallel world. Xingchen traveled through time twice. Both times he appeared on the rooftop at 9 p.m. The first time he ended up in a classroom. The second time he arrived on the school campus. Each time travel created a parallel world based on the current one. These parallel worlds were identical copies. It was exactly like saving data in a video game. Every time a progress was loaded, it was based on an old save file while simultaneously creating a new one. Haohui wanted to know if Xingchen could return to the past again at the same time and place. Before saying goodbye, Haohui reminded him of a harsh reality. With each jump, Xingchen did not return to the past of the original world A. Instead, he traveled to the past of a parallel world B that he created himself. Therefore, every time he returned to reality, the events in world A still continued. The girl he liked would still die. Furthermore, time traveling would damage his memory and lifespan. Later, Xingchen visited her grave. There he coincidentally ran into Zhang Jie. She recalled that after graduation, Su Ruo moved away. At that time, he ran to see her one last time, but was too late. Xingchen was confused about how she knew that. Furthermore, she was supposed to be mad at him back then. Zhang Jie denied this and claimed they had always gotten along well. Xingchen suddenly remembered Haohui words. He guessed she no longer had her original memories. She was the Zhang Jie of a new parallel world. She did not remember him losing her letter, and they had always been good friends. He realized Su Ruo could not be brought back to life here. However, he could still save her in the new world. Soon after Xingchen went to see Zhangchuan, he asked if the man remembered Su Ruo. Zhangchuan praised her for being very beautiful. Xingchen then noticed his class graduation photo on the table. Zhangchuan quickly snatched the photo and kicked him out. Xingchen asked if he remembered someone bullying Su Ruo 15 years ago. He showed Zhangchuan the security footage from right before the incident. Sure enough, the man was terrified and slammed the door shut. Arriving at the old apartment complex, Xingchen asked her roommate to open the door. He wondered if Su Ruo had a boyfriend. The roommate only knew she frequently called a man. She then asked Xingchen to take away her belongings so she could rent out the room. Inside a box, he found a diary. The handwriting had faded over time, but his name was still clear. Su Ruo wrote that he appeared during her most difficult time. In her impression, he always kept his head down, but under the rain that day, he looked straight at her. Later, she unexpectedly met him at her parents' funeral. Oddly, her heart felt strangely calm. One day, she even witnessed him rejecting Zhang Jie. She never expected him to be so decisive. She also wrote that she hated people who drank and turned into completely different people when drunk. She remembered locking the door, but somehow he still got in. She was terrified and wanted to leave that place. Xingchen remembered Zhangchuan mentioning someone bullying her. Later that night, he arranged to meet the class president. He revealed that Su Ruo mentioned a terrifying person in her high school diary. Besides, Zhangchuan reacted strongly when watching the security footage. That person might have appeared right before she died. Xingchen asked the class president if she kept in touch with anyone after graduation. The class president recalled that Zhangxun recently mentioned Su Ruo. Furthermore, he also liked to drink, specifically on the day before the incident. Zhangxun posted a status update about reuniting with the beautiful girl he liked. Xingchen went to Zhangxun's house. Before going inside, he called Tang Song to come over. Sure enough, he saw that Zhangxun loved to drink. Xingchen asked why his friend did not visit Su Ruo's grave. Zhangxun claimed they were not close. However, Xingchen remembered seeing a wreath from him at the cemetery. He revealed that she wrote in her diary about a high school admirer who drank exactly like him. Furthermore, Zhangxun had recently reunited with her. Xingchen demanded to know why he was lying. Zhangxun grabbed a liquor bottle and threatened him. Terrified, Xingchen ran outside. Unexpectedly, his friend was on crutches and could never chase Su Ruo up to the rooftop. Realizing his mistake, Xingchen quickly apologized for the false accusation. He went back inside and called Tang Song to cancel. Zhangxun admired him for risking danger for someone he had not seen in a decade. He explained that his leg hurt a few days ago, so he went for a massage. At the shop, he realized he did not have enough money. Coincidentally, Su Ruo worked there. She treated him for 2 hours and refused to take his money. Xingchen remembered that Zhangxun suffered a severe injury late in their senior year. His parents parents thought he was faking it to skip exams and refused to take him to the hospital. As a result, he was still on crutches 3 months later. Even by graduation, his leg had not healed. Yet no one cared, because they assumed everything would eventually be fine. Xingchen asked why he never looked for them all. Person who ruined his leg. Zhangxin believed some pain could never be healed because he could not turn back time to find the culprit. Later, Xingchen went to the old apartment complex. He asked the security guard to unlock the rooftop. He used the excuse that he missed his late friend and wanted to talk to her for a while. Standing on the roof, he waited exactly until 9 p.m. Sure enough, the spatial rift appeared again. Xingchen counted from 1 to 10 and suddenly found himself sitting in class. He asked Zhang Jie if Su Ruo had taken time off. She teased that he liked Su Ruo but failed to notice she had been absent for days. Looking at Zhang Xun's healthy legs, Xingchen wanted to save his friend from his tragic fate. Soon after, Mr. Zhang caught him skipping and ordered him back to class. Xingchen insisted that Su Ruo was in danger. However, the teacher firmly believed the only danger to her was puppy love. Left with no choice, Xingchen decided to climb the school wall to escape. Coincidentally, Zhang Xun also wanted to sneak out to watch a basketball game. Xingchen made a bet that Kobe would score the winning shot in the last 5 seconds. He even predicted the exact final score of 108 to 107. If he was right, Zhang Xun had to help him over the wall. At that moment, the crowd on the broadcast erupted in cheers for Kobe. Zhang Xun quickly checked the score and saw it was exactly as predicted. Defeated, he acted as a human stepping stone to help his friend climb over the wall. Xingchen sprinted at full speed to Su Ruo's house. He frantically banged on the door calling her name. Her uncle opened it slightly and claimed his niece was not home. Xingchen had to go downstairs to find Zhang Chuan. Right then, he heard the man yelling about wanting to hit someone. It turned out Zhang Chuan was just playing a video game. Xingchen offered to help him win. Catching him off guard, Xingchen asked who was bullying Su Ruo. Zhang Chuan revealed it was a terrifying bad guy who often locked her inside to beat her. Xingchen suddenly realized something crucial. In her diary, she mentioned locking the door. She did not mean the front door but her own bedroom door. He rushed back upstairs and pounded on her bedroom door. Her uncle immediately approached. Xingchen finally recognized him as the drunk man he bumped into before. Furthermore, this was the exact same security guard who opened the rooftop door for him in the future. That explained why the police thought he was just doing a routine patrol in the security footage. Xingchen desperately called out to Su Ruo, but she urged him to go home. He firmly declared he would never leave unless she came out. Left with no choice, she opened the door. She tried to explain away the bruise on her head by claiming she fell carelessly. She continued to urge him to leave immediately. However, he absolutely refused to leave her alone with this man. Enraged, the uncle smashed a liquor bottle and lunged at him. It was not until Xingchen started bleeding that the man snapped back to his senses. Su Ruo immediately grabbed Xingchen and pulled him out of the house. She held his hand tightly and kept walking without ever looking back. She finally let go when it got dark. She explained that her uncle never meant to do it. He just completely lost control whenever he was drunk. Every time he grabbed a bottle, she would lock her door. Unfortunately, she never expected him to have a spare key. Xingchen told her she had to call the police. Next time, he secretly realized a horrifying truth. 15 years later, this uncle would become the apartment security guard. He would have the rooftop key, making it incredibly easy for him to harm her. Since Su Ruo did not have her ID card, Xingchen had to bring her to his own house. His parents heard a girl speaking and noticed a pair of women's shoes by the door. They immediately started eavesdropping outside his bedroom. At that moment, Xingchen suddenly opened the door with Su Ruo standing right beside him. He casually asked if his parents were still awake. After bringing her out to the living room, his mother gently applied medicine to her wounds. Meanwhile, his father sighed about how alcohol could completely twist a person's character. He arranged for his son to sleep on the sofa and asked his wife to clean the bedroom for Su Ruo. They also sliced up a bunch of fruit and urged him to bring it to her. Seeing her frown, he guessed the fruit was too sour. She simply burst into laughter. Then she offered to swap sleeping spots because she worried he was not used to the sofa. He assured her he was perfectly comfortable in his own home. When the morning sun shone through the window, he opened his eyes to see the beautiful face of the girl he loved. Su Ruo urged him to get up for a morning workout and study vocabulary together. He begged for a few more minutes of sleep. She threatened to pull off his blanket. He boldly challenged her, but she actually went through with it. However, he was completely shirtless. Blushing deeply, she quickly turned away. Before leaving the room, she reminded him to put on a shirt so he would not catch a cold. After running 3 laps around the neighborhood, he started feeling exhausted. At that moment, his father set up breakfast, while his mother handed Su Ruo a warm towel. His father told his wife to buy some daily necessities and new clothes for their guest. Meanwhile, his mother warmly told Su Ruo to stay as long as she needed and to treat them like family. Xingchen reminded his parents not to overdo it and pressure his friend. However, Su Ruo actually felt incredibly warm experiencing a family atmosphere after so long. Arriving at the school gate, she saw her uncle waiting for her. He angrily questioned why his niece dared to stay out all night. At that moment, Xingchen stepped up and revealed the wound on his arm. He threatened to call the police about the attack yesterday. Panicking, the uncle quickly pulled out a 100 yuan bill to compensate him. Xingchen snatched the money but then handed it to Su Ruo. He claimed he refused to keep it to avoid being accused of extortion. She praised him for being so thoughtful at such a young age. Later, Renan heard about her being abused and felt deeply sorry for her. The class president pointed out that despite his good intentions, Xingchen still had to be punished for skipping class. Then the class president asked where Su Ruo stayed last night. Renan immediately offered his spacious home with a private guest room. She politely declined, stating she already found a very safe place with a host family that treated her extremely well. During class, Xingchen stared blankly out the window. He figured he had done everything he could for her. Even if he returned to the future and exposed the truth, she still could not be brought back to life. Soon after Xingchen had a chance to speak with Hao Hui in private, the bookworm complained that girls were impossible to understand. He recalled the time Xingchen read the letter from his deskmate to him. Right after he'd bluntly rejected her, she punched him straight in the face. Xingchen felt his friend was much better suited for scientific research than understanding women. Next, he asked how much changing the past could affect the future during time travel. He proposed a scenario where he stopped a suspect from harming someone in the future. Hao Hui theorized that an absolute cause and effect relationship could only be formed if he imprisoned or crippled the suspect. If he only stopped the suspect once, it might just make the attacker hate the victim even more. Meanwhile, at the bus stop, Xingchen waited endlessly for Su Ruo. He finally breathed a sigh of relief when he found her. It turned out she took a detour because she was afraid their classmates would find out they lived together. She was also worried about bothering his parents. Unexpectedly, his father had prepared a massive hot pot. He enthusiastically urged her to try the steamed clams after finishing the lobster and crab. His mother had also bought a ton of new clothes for her. Xingchen explained that his parents had always wished for a daughter. For the first time, Su Ruo got to try on plenty of new outfits. His father worried his wife picked out tacky styles, but Su Ruo looked stunning in everything. After dinner, Xingchen spoke with her alone. He worried the enthusiasm of his parents made her uncomfortable. She assured him she was very happy but could not keep bothering them. They had to work in the morning and still worked hard to take care of her at night. Xingchen agreed to help her find an apartment. She thanked him for letting her feel the warmth of a family again after so long. At that moment, countless shooting stars streaked across the sky. She had heard about the Geminid meteor shower. Tonight, however, she figured the meteors flashed by too quickly to make a wish. Xingchen suddenly remembered reuniting with her after a decade. Back then, he also did not have enough time to tell her he liked her. Early the next morning, Jiang Shen caught them walking to school together. He pretended not to see anything and pulled Xingchen aside to talk. Xingchen told his friend to keep her living arrangement a secret. Jiang Shen promised he was great at keeping secrets. However, the moment he arrived at school, he could not resist telling everyone. The gossip spread rapidly from person to person. Eventually, a rumor broke out that the two of them were sharing a bed. Su Ruo called him outside and told him not to mind how others looked at them. Since the rumors were false, they had nothing to be ashamed of. Xingchen firmly stated he would not fear the gossip, even if she continued staying at his house. He was only worried his noisy parents would disrupt her exam prep. On the way home, he took her to a real estate agency. He called them out for unreasonably applying peak season prices to the off-season. It was not the start of the school year, so very few people were renting. He also estimated that the price difference between the start and end of the term almost equaled their agency fee. Furthermore, he had secretly saved the phone number of the landlord while viewing the apartment. He threatened to contact the owner directly and maybe even earn the commission himself. Hearing this, the agent had to agree to rent it at the lowest price without raising it when the new semester began. Xingchen demanded to meet the landlord before paying the deposit and signing the contract. Otherwise, they had to add a clause stating the tenant would not be liable if a dispute occurred. On the way back, Su Ruo wanted to treat him to to a meal using money from her uncle. Hearing this, he immediately led her to a famous old wonton shop. Surprisingly, the shop had not even opened for business yet. He suddenly realized that place would not open until 15 years later. He quickly claimed he remembered wrong and took her to the food street instead. Later, they returned to her apartment to pack her things. She unexpectedly ran into the wife of her uncle there. She stated she no longer wanted to live with them. The woman softened her tone and promised her husband would never hit her again. On the other hand, she knew she could not kick them out. She knew her grandfather left this house to her father and uncle. Even though her father had already paid her uncle off, she still did not want to evict them. Therefore, she decided to move out herself. The woman pretended to pity her niece. However, a fallen suitcase proved they had already packed up all her belongings. Xingchen let out a sarcastic laugh. The woman tried to explain that since her niece was still young, they were just temporarily holding on to the house for her. He bluntly stated her share of this house was worth far more than just a suitcase. Besides, her uncle had intentionally assaulted his niece, so he would definitely be stripped of his guardianship. Later, in the pouring rain, Su Ruo scolded him for acting so impulsively. In reality, she was just worried he would get hurt confronting her family. His previous stunt of barging into her home could easily be considered trespassing. She only tolerated her uncle because she was deeply attached to the house that held memories of her parents, but now she truly felt like she had no home left. Xingchen never expected Su Ruo to still be living alone after all these years. His heart ached as he pulled the little girl into a tight embrace. Returning to the rental house, he wrapped a towel around her. He waited for the hot water and urged her to take a shower. He prepared a light dinner for her to eat afterward. She realized he was always by her side whenever she was at her lowest. He told her she could come to his house anytime if she was not used to living here. He also asked her not to mind if he acted a bit strange sometimes. He wanted her to believe that everything would be all right. Sending him off, she stood on the balcony watching his figure disappear into the distance. She remembered how he had always cared for and protected her recently. At that moment, the doorbell rang. She thought he had returned, but it turned out to be Ren Nan. He explained that he lived in the next building. He ran into Xingchen earlier and guessed she was staying here. 15 days passed and Xingchen still had not returned to the future. Su Ruo came over to congratulate him on improving his physics score by 5 points. He suddenly wanted to go home because he was terrified of taking the college entrance exam. During lunch, she wanted to taste his food. However, Mr. John unexpectedly stopped them and invited both to his office. The teacher understood that feelings beyond friendship could develop at this age. However, the college entrance exam was fast approaching, so they had to face the most important turning point of their lives. Mr. John was completely at ease with her, but not with him. Xingchen asked the teacher why a girl like her would even like him. He wondered if it was because he skipped class or ranked dead last in English. He emphasized that he was not worthy of loving a beautiful and kind school beauty like her. Stepping outside, she immediately refuted his perspective. To her, he was actually quite outstanding. Surprisingly, he received a failing grade on his chemistry test. Right after that, Zhang Xun scolded him for daring to steal his spot at the bottom of the class. Xingchen remembered he was not that bad at studying back then, but had now forgotten everything. She encouraged him to start reviewing from the basics. He secretly realized his entire future would change if he failed to get into college. So he swallowed his pride and asked for her help with his studies. After school, she did not walk home with the class president. Meanwhile, he refused to play basketball with Tang Song. He prepared 2 dinner boxes but forgot to buy drinks, so he ran out to get some. Looking at the hot meals, a smile unconsciously appeared on her face. However, she waited endlessly, but he never returned. Stepping out into the corridor, she saw him standing in the schoolyard. She ran downstairs and scolded him for making her wait an hour. However, Xingchen seemed like a completely different person now. He did not even know why he was at school. He apologized, claiming his mind had been a bit foggy lately. Deeply disappointed, she accepted the soda. She suddenly remembered his warning not to mind if he randomly acted strange. Sure enough, he had already returned to the future. He hurriedly called Su Ruo, but still could not reach her. He guessed he had not managed to change her fate. Arriving at the police station, he immediately told Tang Song about her uncle working as the apartment security guard. 15 years ago, the man used to beat his niece whenever he got drunk. Tang Song stated he had already investigated the uncle. He warned Xingchen not to interfere with police work. Regardless, Xingchen still went to confront the man. He instinctively looked down at the scar on his arm. The uncle handed him the key and locked the rooftop door from the inside. He explained it was an old-style lock, so the inside latch could not be opened from the outside. He mentioned he started working here before she moved in. However, he always avoided her because he he was ashamed of the past. He was drinking on the day of the incident, so he remembered nothing. Yet the police had already concluded he was not the killer. Later, Xingchen arranged to meet Hao Hui and shared these new details. Hao Hui analyzed that, with an old-style lock, the killer could not lock the door from the inside after committing the crime. Doing so would leave the culprit with no escape route. Therefore, it was truly just an accident. Zhangshan knew Xingchen cared deeply for her. He understood his friend wanted to find a killer just to ease his own guilt. However, he was acting exactly like those troublemakers in hospitals. Blinded by the pain of losing a loved one, they would blindly blame the doctors. Zhangshan then revealed a secret about his race that year. No one actually kicked him on the track. Near the finish line, he tore his Achilles tendon, which felt exactly like getting kicked. He did not dare blame his parents, so he made up a logical excuse to vent his anger. Zhangshan believed that if she truly wanted to leave this world, there was nothing Xingchen could have done to stop her. Returning home, Xingchen drank to relieve his heavy mood. He remembered her familiar back from years ago. At that moment, Ningjing woke him up. He was startled to realize he had forgotten the wedding day of his father. Ningjing dragged him out to sing karaoke, but he was in no mood to join her. She believed her older brother had his own reasons, so their parents would not blame him. She then shared a story about her mother working as a taxi driver in her youth. One day, her mother picked up a man, taking his pregnant wife to give birth. Ignoring all traffic laws, she sped straight to the hospital. Ultimately, the pregnant woman safely delivered her baby. Meanwhile, Ningjing's mother went to the police station to pay her fines. Surprisingly, the pregnant woman from back then turned out to be Xingchen's own mother. She mused that the beginning of a story is always beautiful, but we can never predict the ending. Therefore, simply having happy memories is more than enough. After hearing her advice, Xingchen made up his mind to travel back in time again, because no matter what the final outcome might be, having those beautiful memories was all that mattered. This time, Xingchen traveled back to their final semester. Guessing Zhangxun was guarding the back door, he went around to the front. At that moment, he heard Zhang Jie mentioning that Su Ruo had been acting increasingly strange. She was always sad and stopped eating with everyone. Soon after, Xingchen saw Zhangxun place a chalk box on top of the door. Right as Su Ruo walked in, he rushed over to catch the box before it hit her head. Later, the two of them spoke in private. He admitted he had disappeared for a while and apologized for missing their tutoring sessions months ago. She felt like he had become a completely different person. He was no longer proactive and barely dared to look at her. Left with no choice, he claimed another persona lived inside him. He explained she could just think of it as him having multiple personalities. Hearing this, she immediately promised to keep his secret. She also assured him she was doing fine living alone. He then invited her to hang out over the weekend. This time she noticed a slight change in him. In the past, he always carried a heavy burden, as if he was desperate to complete a critical mission. But now his eyes looked much more peaceful. He gently told her he just wanted to create beautiful memories together. Meanwhile, seeing Zhangxun eating fried chicken, Xingchen asked if he was worried about gaining weight. However, his friend wanted to prove to his father that his life was about more than just running. He had no natural talent yet, was forced to run every single day, leaving him exhausted. Xingchen argued that having a healthy body was the most important thing. Despite this, Zhangxun still insisted on competing, so he would not have any regrets. He felt it was worth it, even if he got a career-ending injury. Later, when Xingchen met up with Su Ruo again, he saw she had compiled research on multiple personality disorder. She advised him to keep his mind relaxed and seek therapy. Furthermore, boosting blood circulation could also help ease his condition. At that moment, he vividly remembered that night when she gently talked to him and gave him a massage. Unable to hold back his tears, he buried his face in her shoulder. She immediately comforted him, promising she was right there with him, so he had nothing to fear. Right before the race, Xingchen asked Zhangxun if he truly had no regrets. Winning a medal but spending a lifetime in a wheelchair would be tragic. Zhangxun replied that he had no other options left. If he did not run, he would have to face a grueling college entrance exam far beyond his academic abilities. Since birth, he was destined to follow his father's athletic footsteps. He just needed to stand on that podium once. Even if he spent the rest of his life in a wheelchair, he felt it was worth it. Knowing he could not stop his friend Xingchen, simply told him to change his shoes. He warned that spiked shoes would hurt a lot if they kicked someone, but Zhangxun insisted the spikes made him faster. Soon after, the whole class cheered for him at the track field. Everyone firmly believed he would make the provincial team. Xingchen was startled to notice his friend had actually changed his running shoes. He was no longer wearing the spiked ones. Tang Song explained that Zhangxun noticed the glue peeling off his shoes earlier. He insisted on swapping them out, fearing the shoe might fly off off and hit someone. Xingchen guessed the unglued shoe was what caused the fall years ago. If so, his friend might actually change his fate this time. Amidst the cheers, Zhang Xun shot forward like an arrow. Xingchen waited nervously for him to cross the finish line. Sure enough, he finished safely and even broke the record. Xingchen looked at Su Ruo with eyes full of hope. He fully believed he could save the woman he loved. Unexpectedly, Zhang Xun stomped his foot too hard and severely injured himself. Xingchen immediately yelled out that his friend had torn his Achilles tendon and needed to be rushed to the hospital. Everyone carried Zhang Xun to a car. Xingchen urged Mr. Jiang to get a doctor to operate on the torn tendon as soon as possible. Then, he turned back to look at Su Ruo with eyes full of disappointment and agony. She wondered how he knew exactly what the injury was. He claimed he had a friend with the exact same condition. He also firmly assured her that their future would turn out beautifully. Returning to class, Mr. Jiang announced that Zhang Xun was well taken care of. He then ordered the entire class to stay after school to review key exam questions. Su Ruo felt deep regret because this meant missing her final broadcasting session. Seeing her so down, Renan went to find her replacement announcer. Her name was Yu Ting. He explained that this afternoon's slot originally belonged to Su Ruo. He even offered 200 yuan, hoping Yu Ting would give the session back to his friend. Yu Ting had no intention of fighting over it. She explained that the teachers simply arranged the schedule that way. At that moment, Su Ruo arrived and scolded Renan for bullying an underclassman. She knew it was Yu Ting's first time broadcasting, so she cheered the underclassman on. Soon after, Xingchen also went to see Yu Ting. He apologized to her on behalf of Renan. However, he also had a favor to ask her. Returning to class, Xingchen paid Renan back. At that moment, Yu Ting broadcasted the Date with Youth program. Su Ruo could not hide her feeling of regret. After the self-study period, Xingchen wanted to take Su Ruo to say goodbye. It turned out he had borrowed the key to the broadcasting room. Therefore, Su Ruo's voice had the chance to ring out over the speakers. She greeted everyone and introduced herself as the announcer. Su Ruo. She stated that this might be her last time in this position. During her time running the program, she had played many songs dedicated to teachers and friends. However, for her final time, she wanted to dedicate a song to everyone. 18-year-old youth. They were fighting their hardest. Regardless of the outcome, youth would pass and time waits for no one. They were at their most beautiful and full of potential age. Therefore, she hoped everyone would fight hard for a brilliant youth. Xingchen noticed that people rarely listened to the broadcast. However, tonight, he saw everyone listening very closely. Hearing him say that, Su Ruo smiled. She even felt that Xingchen thought exactly like an old man. Returning home, Xingchen analyzed his time travels. This time, he had stayed in the past for half a month. He was afraid he would suddenly disappear again. Therefore, he had to make the most of his time. Even if he could not change the ending, he could at least make Su Ruo happier. Meanwhile, in the schoolyard, Renan was playing the guitar and singing while waiting for Su Ruo to pass by. However, she paid no attention to him at all. At that moment, Xingchen arrived and asked his friend to teach him how to play the guitar. He sang a song for his friend that no one had ever composed before. Renan acknowledged that Xingchen wrote very modern music. He agreed to teach him guitar, but also wanted to sing this song at an upcoming party. From then on, whenever he had free time, Xingchen studied playing the guitar diligently. On her birthday, Su Ruo probed Xingchen to see if he had any plans. Xingchen replied that there was no evening self-study today, so he planned to go home and review his lessons. Su Ruo thought Xingchen forgot, so she reminded him it was her birthday. Xingchen replied that getting older meant there was no need to throw birthday parties anymore. Suddenly, Renan appeared to wish Su Ruo a happy birthday. However, she angrily replied that she was all grown up and did not need one. She added that she wanted to go home and study tonight. Renan stated he knew they were about to take the college entrance exam. However, everyone only gets one 18th birthday party, so he just hoped she would not have regrets later. Renan had rented out an entire large karaoke room to celebrate her birthday, but since she did not show up, he invited other friends to join the party instead. He even told the staff not to bring the cake in anymore. Meanwhile, Xingchen asked his parents for permission to attend a birthday party. Mr. Yu scolded his son for focusing on hanging out instead of studying. Left with no choice, Xingchen confessed that today was Su Ruo's birthday. Hearing this, Mr. Yu immediately packed some food for his son to bring to her. At the same time, Su Ruo was sitting alone feeling sad. Even though she was slightly disappointed that Xingchen forgot her birthday, thinking about their moments together unconsciously brought a smile to her face. At that moment, a restaurant worker arrived to deliver noodles. Downstairs, Xingchen wanted to surprise Su Ruo. Unexpectedly, he suddenly felt dizzy, as if he was about to return to the future. He forced himself to drag his feet upstairs to see her. He wished wished her a happy birthday. Right after saying those words, he fainted on her shoulder. Arriving at the hospital, Su Ruo heard the doctor say Xingchen was just malnourished. She went to submit the prescription and bought some cake for him. She wanted to ask the doctor a few more questions, but he quickly grabbed her hand. On the way back, Xingchen still held her hand tightly. She stated she just turned 18 and was old enough to take care of others. However, Xingchen timidly let go of her hand. She knew he had two personalities, so she was no longer surprised. Returning home, Xingchen organized the food in the refrigerator for her. At that moment, the kids downstairs lit off fireworks. The next day at class, Xingchen heard that Zhang Jie had moved to the front row. The class president was assigned by Mr. Zhang to sit next to him and tutor him. During lunch, Su Ruo worried about his health. He stated that his illness always came suddenly and left very quickly. However, if he could not return, he would probably fail the college entrance exam. She comforted him, saying she was right there to help him. Unexpectedly, Mr. Zhang interrupted the couple. Xingchen used the excuse that Su Ruo had low blood sugar, so he planned to share his food with her. The teacher advised her to eat some candy next time. He also took the opportunity to invite Xingchen to his office. He asked what Xingchen wanted to do in the future. Xingchen thought about how there were many successful people in the world. Rennan would own a large business. The class president would join a top 500 national company. Hao Hui would do scientific research. Tang Song would become a police officer. And Su Ruo would always remain warm-hearted. But he only hoped to be a good person who would not just stand by when others were in trouble. He only regretted certain things that could not be saved. Back in class, Xingchen sang a song dedicated to Su Ruo. Even though he sang off-key, his classmates all wanted to keep listening. Rennan suddenly snatched the guitar away. He accused Xingchen of asking for guitar lessons just to flirt with Su Ruo. Xingchen stood up to explain but suddenly felt dizzy. Thinking his friend was faking it, Rennan poured water over his head. He warned Xingchen to stop daydreaming. On the way home, Xingchen asked if she was happy. She nodded. He hoped she would always remember this happy time. She replied that if she was ever unhappy, she would definitely go find him. Right after Su Ruo left, Xingchen could not hold on any longer. He dropped his umbrella and fainted. The next day, she did not see him at lunch. She ran to the cafeteria and grabbed his food like usual. However, his eyes looked incredibly unfamiliar. He had become a completely different person. Waking up on the rooftop, Xingchen knew he had not changed her fate. Regardless, he had at least given her many beautiful memories. Seeing him lying around the house all day, Ningjing urged him to go play basketball. Arriving at the court, he did not see Zhang Shun. He called his friend and discovered the man was walking perfectly fine. Hearing Xingchen had a sister, Zhang Jun immediately asked for an introduction. Xingchen was confused because his friend was supposed to be on crutches since their senior year. Zhang Shun explained he had timely surgery and recovered quickly. He even competed for the provincial team before starting an online business. He also mentioned that both Xingchen and Rennan liked Su Ruo, causing their years of conflict. A few days ago, Zhang Shun went to her massage parlor and bumped into Rennan. He noted that Rennan was incredibly loyal and still kept her final broadcast recording. That day, Rennan was a bit drunk, so Zhang Shun helped him to his car. He heard the man tell his driver to go to the nearest apartment in the Jianshe residential area. Xingchen was shocked because that was exactly where she lived. Since he could not reach his old friend, Xingchen went straight to his company. The receptionist stated the CEO had just stepped out, so he had to leave. On his way out, he accidentally bumped into a man named DJ. Down in the parking lot, he ran into the man again. DJ's new CEO Rennan was cheating on his fiancée with his high school crush. However, that scandal would ruin the partnership between their two corporations. DJ told his assistant to warn Rennan not to betray his sister anymore. Hearing this, Xingchen rushed over to block the car. He demanded to know if Rennan and Su Ruo actually knew each other. DJ simply smirked and said the girl was truly capable for making two guys go crazy over her. Returning to the old apartment complex, Xingchen asked to review the security footage from before the incident. However, Rennan never appeared in the video. Tang Song comforted him, saying he had already tried his best. At that moment, the class president texted that Mr. Zhang was hospitalized. Arriving to meet his classmates, he heard their old teacher still had not woken up. Zhang Shun suddenly noticed the car of Rennan parked right outside. The class president recalled that Rennan had secretly applied for an art academy years ago. He got into a massive fight with his father over it. Mr. Zhang stepped in to mediate so he would not run away from home. After visiting the teacher, Xingchen went to get some hot water. Stepping outside, he coincidentally ran into Hao Hui. After hearing the new clues, Hao Hui believed Rennan was not the killer. The police would have definitely investigated the romantic relationships of the victim early on. The current evidence was not enough to make him a suspect. Hao Hui theorized that Rennan was not at the crime scene, but her death was still connected connected to him. That explained why he was avoiding Xingchen. Soon after, Xingchen sent Renan a picture of the cutout letter. He also mentioned bumping into his brother-in-law. Sure enough, Renan immediately showed up. He did not deny his love for her. Howie stepped out and asked why his fingerprint was on the photo. Renan argued that if he intentionally used pre-printed cutout letters, he would not leave a fingerprint. Xingchen asked how he knew it was a cutout letter. Furthermore, what if he accidentally left a print while sending it? Renan claimed that if he wore gloves to cut the letters, he could not have left prints on the paper. Xingchen then revealed he only photographed a tiny corner of the paper. He demanded to know how Renan recognized it as a letter. Renan played dumb, claiming he did not understand the suspicion. He insisted he just wanted to warn her to stay away from home for a while. Xingchen burst into laughter because he only showed the first half of the letter, yet Renan knew the exact contents of the second half. At that moment, Tang Song stepped out. He declared he would officially report everything. Renan just confessed. Sitting in the car, Renan explained everything. Su Ruo failed her college entrance exam and lived a very hard life. When they reunited, he did everything he could to make her happy. Over time, she was moved and agreed to date him. However, he already had a fiancée who had been chasing him since high school. He had rejected her multiple times, but when his family company suffered a financial crisis, she offered to help on the condition of marriage. Because he loved Su Ruo, he kept delaying the wedding. Eventually, his fiancée discovered the truth and was absolutely furious. Terrified she would do something extreme, he sent the warning letter to Su Ruo. Once she found out about the fiancé, she immediately broke up with him. Renan deeply blamed himself. He hated business, but still inherited the family company. He only loved Su Ruo, yet accepted someone else out of cowardice. Arriving at the police station, Xingchen saw the fiancée. He instantly recognized her as Yu Ting. She was the underclassman who lent him the broadcasting room key years ago. Based on the confession, Howie pieced together the events of that tragic night. Yu Ting and her brother went looking for Su Ruo to force her away from Renan. For some reason, she fled to the rooftop of the neighboring building. Because of the old design, the rooftop offered a clear view of the adjacent corridor. When she spotted Yu Ting and her brother, her first instinct was to run. However, she unexpectedly ran into her uncle in the hallway. Her severe childhood trauma instantly triggered a panic attack, forcing her to lock the rooftop door from the inside. Desperate, she tried to climb down, just as the rusty railing completely snapped. Knowing the heartbreaking truth, the class president gently advised Xingchen to finally let it go. Su Ruo had no family left, so living alone was not easy for her. Falling for Renan when they reunited was completely understandable. Xingchen realized that if she had never met Renan, or if he had not dated two women at once, her fate might have been different. Later, he went up to the apartment rooftop, hoping to stop her from being with Renan. The moment he returned to the past, he immediately went looking for her. Su Ruo recognized him as the Xingchen she had missed for a whole month. She mentioned that while he was gone, his other personality studied incredibly hard. Xingchen asked if she would accept someone else who treated her well in the future. She replied that she would appreciate their kindness, but would not return their romantic feelings. He urged her never to accept that person if such a situation ever arose. She burst into laughter and assured him she would never date someone out of mere pity or gratitude. At that moment, Zhangshan smacked Xingchen on the head from behind. He advised his friend to stop focusing solely on romance and follow his example of studying hard despite being on crutches. Sitting in class, Xingchen secretly glanced at Su Ruo. He wondered if she would truly fall in love with Renan. However, he could not expose his friend for two-timing because the current Renan was still a genuinely good guy. Meeting his friend in private, Xingchen did not know what to say. Renan spoke up first to apologize for pouring water on him earlier. Xingchen bluntly asked if he could stop pursuing Su Ruo. Surprisingly, Renan agreed because he did not want to disrupt her exam prep. However, he vowed to seriously pursue her in college. He firmly believed his persistence would eventually move her heart. Xingchen knew his friend would actually succeed. He secretly realized that even if Renan stopped pursuing her, now there was no guarantee he would not go after her 15 years later. Watching Renan reject Yu Ting, Xingchen could only sigh. In the future, his friend would eventually compromise and accept her. Even if he forced Yu Ting away, now he could never guarantee they would not reunite and date later. At that moment, Rennan asked Xingchen to help him store his guitar and drum set. His father had confiscated the instruments and locked them in his company. However, Rennan wanted to sneak them out. Xingchen agreed, since this was a chance to understand his friend better. Rennan reminisced that his father used to play drums with him in middle school. As the business grew, his dad no longer had time for him. While Rennan was charging his phone, Xingchen tested out the CEO chair. Right then, a consultant named Haishi requested to meet the CEO. Mistaking Xingchen for the son of the CEO, he introduced himself as a stock market expert. Guessing the wealthy heir had money, he lured Rennan into investing in stocks to buy new instruments. Xingchen challenged Haishi by asking if a stock surging high and dipping slightly was a typical market trend. He correctly guessed that this scammer sent identical consultation emails to hundreds of people every day. Statistically, a small group would eventually believe his predictions were accurate. Haishi would then filter out these victims who trusted him as a stock guru. Xingchen was certain a professional scam ring was operating behind him. Hearing Xingchen expose the fraud, Renan wished he was that knowledgeable. If he were, he could easily convince his dad to let him study music. Xingchen explained that his father had a valid point because the record industry would soon decline. However, the music field would develop a completely new ecosystem in the future. With the internet boom, audiences would listen to music on their phones. Therefore, the fall of the physical record industry had nothing to do with Rennan becoming a singer. On the way home, Rennan proudly declared Xingchen as his new boss. The next day at school, Xingchen was back to scoring 30 points on his tests. Rennan rushed in to thank his boss. It turned out his father had suddenly agreed to let him attend art school last night. He promised never to forget his friend once he became famous. Xingchen secretly realized that if Rennan got into a music conservatory, he would not inherit the family business. Without a failing company, he would never be forced into a marriage of convenience with Yuting. If so, the tragic fate of Su Ruo might actually change. During the final mock exam, his grades plummeted dramatically. He scored a total of 150 points across 4 subjects, dropping nearly 300 points from the last test. Su Ruo urged him to quickly summon his other personality back. Instead of studying, he calculated the exact date he needed to return to the future. If he stayed in the past for another half-month, he would definitely fail the college entrance exam. If that happened, his entire life would be ruined beyond repair. Back home, he exercised relentlessly, trying to trigger that dizzy feeling again. Mr. Yu advised his son to sleep early and not put too much pressure on himself. He even gifted him a physics book on universal gravitation. He wanted his son to remember that while college was important, it was not the sole purpose of life. The next day, Xingchen asked Hao Hui if there was any hope of passing if he started studying seriously right now. Hao Hui replied that if he followed his specific study method, he would definitely get into a regular university next year. During self-study, Zhang Jie was so overwhelmed by pressure that she burst into tears. She was terrified of failing the exam and missing her chance at college. Xingchen gently placed a soda on her desk. Compared to his classmates, he was 15 years ahead. Yet despite traveling back in time repeatedly, he had never truly integrated into this world. He had never tried to study seriously or attend classes diligently. He never once looked back at the things he had lost. He had forgotten to seize the chance to experience the feelings he had long forgotten. Besides saving Su Ruo, this was actually his chance to start completely over. After days of intense studying, Mr. Jian let the class watch a movie to relax. Everyone was fully engrossed, and some even cried. Su Ruo felt she was not cut out to be an artist or a scientist. She simply wanted to be a teacher. She did not expect all her future students to get into top-tier universities like Tsinghua or Peking. However, she hoped they would all be as sincere and brave as him. Meanwhile, he only wished for her to remain safe forever. Walking across the schoolyard, she could hear countless teachers offering final words of advice. They knew every student was under immense pressure right now. But aside from urging them to push a little harder, there was nothing else they could do. None of the teachers expected anything in return. They only hoped their students would succeed and become useful members of society. They knew that in the future some might fail, face hardships, or lose their direction in life. But they all hoped their students would forever remember how hard they fought during their youth. Because Xingchen was busy finishing a practice test, Tang Song walked Su Ruo home. He asked if she knew the man who was staring intently at her. Terrified, she quickly made an excuse to leave first. Later, Xingchen heard about this from Tang Song. Panicking, he sprinted off to find her. He tried to calm himself down, reasoning that her uncle only lost control when drunk. Furthermore, her fatal accident was supposed to happen 15 years later. However, since he had already altered the timeline, there was a real possibility the tragedy could happen much earlier earlier. At that moment he suddenly felt dizzy. Spotting a firefly, he frantically chased after it. Eventually, he finally found her safe and sound. It turned out her uncle only wanted his niece to come home so she could focus on studying for her exams. Overjoyed, Xingchen ran to meet the woman he loved. He told her he wanted to do so many things for her. However, it seemed he had already done everything he could. He had no idea what else he could do. Su Ruo stated she wanted to get into the same college as him. She hoped they would always be together. Xingchen urged her not to like Rennan or be with anyone else. Whether in the past or future, 1 year or 15 years later, she must not be with another man. She asked if he was trying to say he liked her. Xingchen firmly confessed his feelings. Perhaps it started the moment she transferred into his class and smiled at him. Despite the passage of time, he could never stop liking her. Su Ruo replied she only wanted to be with him too. Both now and in the future, she felt the same way because she liked him back. However, Xingchen completely missed her final words. He woke up on the rooftop guessing she was still alive. At that moment, Tang Song called to arrange a meeting at the cemetery. Looking at her tombstone, Xingchen realized history had repeated itself. He wondered if she still ended up with Rennan in this timeline. Tang Song clarified they never actually dated. Rennan simply pursued her, causing people to misunderstand. Later that night, the brother of Yu Ting brought a few thugs to ambush Su Ruo. She tried to climb down to the lower floor and accidentally fell. Xingchen realized he could stop her from loving Rennan, but could not prevent them from meeting. He also could not erase the deep hatred Yu Ting had for her. Right then, Rennan also arrived to pay his respects. Xingchen immediately took his anger out on him. He demanded to know if his friend still had to rely on Yu Ting to be a singer. Rennan blamed himself for having no natural talent, so no one wanted to listen to his songs. At that time, Yu Ting volunteered to fund his album release and promotions. He never intended to string two women along. He only wanted to help Su Ruo live a less difficult life. Speaking of this, he questioned why Xingchen, always brying, kept his distance from her back then. She had failed the college entrance exam and was miserable all summer. Yet Xingchen never even dared to offer a single word of comfort. Soon after Hao Hui arranged to meet Xingchen, he suspected the novel Xingchen was writing was connected to her case. However, in the story, the male lead actually traveled through time. Hao Hui suddenly remembered the college entrance exam years ago. Xingchen scored over 500 points. Even back then, he felt like two entirely different versions of Xingchen existed. He urged his friend not to hide anything from him anymore. He had theorized many possibilities regarding her death, but every time they talked, he eliminated a few hypotheses. Now only one absolute possibility remained. Xingchen promised to reveal his secret to his friend later. Hao Hui analyzed that the commute from the massage parlor to her apartment was quite short. Therefore, she received the warning letter from Rennan about half an hour before her death. Furthermore, when the police collected evidence, the letter was still resting on her table. However, after reading it, she did not call Rennan, but went up to the neighboring rooftop instead. Checking the news from that day, Hao Hui discovered there was a meteor shower. He remembered she loved studying shooting stars back in high school. He guessed she called Xingchen to watch the meteor shower together. But right from the rooftop, she spotted Yu Ting and a group of thugs arriving at her building. Remembering the warning letter, she ran away in terror. She froze in her tracks upon running into her uncle downstairs. Her childhood trauma resurfaced, making her panic and lock the rooftop door from the inside, just like she used to lock her bedroom. Desperate to avoid those people, she took a huge risk and climbed down the railing. At that exact moment, the rusty railing snapped, yet no one stepped up to save the poor girl. She called Xingchen for the second time before finally falling to her death. Hearing this deduction, Xingchen started having frequent nightmares. He dreamt of her screaming for help until her voice went hoarse while he remained completely unaware. He had tried his absolute best, but still failed to save the woman he loved. However, he had no intention of giving up because he needed to confirm one last thing. Returning to visit their old high school, Xingchen felt the weather had been incredibly unusual lately. Hao Hui stated the world was constantly changing. A new batch of students arrived every year, and the climate underwent a mini ice age every few centuries. The time rift would not stay there forever either. Based on the timeline in his novel, Hao Hui predicted the rift would completely vanish in 2 days. It might reappear in a few centuries, or just a month later. It could spawn in the northeast, Oceania, or even on the moon. Xingchen wondered how his friend knew this so accurately. Hao Hui explained he deduced the pattern based on the exact times the rift appeared and disappeared. He warned that if Xingchen went back this time, he would have to face the college entrance exam. He would end up at a different university and meet entirely different people. That alone would create a massive shift in history. Moreover, stubbornly fighting against the timeline would severely damage his physical body. He might not even be able to return to the future anymore. After explaining all this, Hao Hui asked if his friends still wanted to take this gamble. Xingchen asked what would happen if he told Su Ruo absolutely everything. Hao Hui theorized that someone knowing the future would trigger a butterfly effect. However, no one could accurately predict what the specific outcome would be. Before returning to the past, Xingchen visited the new family of his father. He mentioned he wanted to go find a girl. Mr. Yu immediately guessed it was Su Ruo and asked how she was doing lately. Xingchen froze for a second before claiming she was still doing very well. Next, he met up with his old classmates one by one to ask about her. The class president handed him the college application form she filled out years ago. She recalled that right before entering the exam room, Su Ruo realized she lost her admission ticket. Because of that, she completely missed the first subject. She only found the ticket right before the second exam. Therefore, she was absolutely devastated when filling out her college preferences. She threw the form away, so the class president secretly kept it. Xingchen checked his watch and saw it was already 7 p.m. He quickly packed his things and got into his car to head to the rooftop. Unexpectedly, two thugs suddenly slipped into his vehicle. It turned out they were subordinates of Yu Ting brothers seeking revenge for putting their boss in jail. Xingchen abruptly slammed on the brakes and took the chance to escape. Running out of time, he recklessly fought back. Meanwhile, Hao Hui discovered an error in his calculations. He frantically called Xingchen but could not reach him. At the same time, Xingchen desperately tried to start the car, but the engine would not turn over, and he only had exactly 15 minutes left. He helplessly went outside to block an oncoming car. Eventually, Xingchen reached the old apartment complex. Over 15 minutes had passed, but he refused to give up. He sat on the rooftop, waiting endlessly, but the time rift never appeared. In despair, he asked where she was. He just wanted to see her one last time. At that moment, a shooting star streaked by. The time rift suddenly appeared in the distance. Xingchen recklessly stepped forward and tried to reach it. He suddenly felt the fear and despair of the woman he loved. This time he was determined to save her. Their happy memories gave him strength. He took a leap of faith toward the rift to reunite with her. Xingchen woke up on the street, dazed while crossing the road. He was hit by a car. At the hospital, he did not recognize his parents. The doctor diagnosed him with temporary amnesia. However, his brain was undamaged, so his memory would recover over time. Mr. Yu was worried because his son had the college entrance exam next week. After being discharged, Xingchen could not believe he was a high school senior. Looking at the practice tests, he could not answer a single question. He suddenly recalled a few fragmented memories, but did not understand their meaning. Su Ruo heard from the class president about the accident. Since it was not serious and he was already home, the two of them met up. He told her not to mind since he had forgotten many things. She asked if he remembered this place. Right here, they once promised to face everything together. However, Xingchen only remembered playing here as a child. On the day of the exam, Mrs. Yu reminded her son to bring his admission ticket. Xingchen suddenly remembered an event where someone lost their ticket before entering the exam room. Meanwhile, Hao Hui confidently headed to the test. The class president invited Zhang Ji to go to school together. Tang Song was afraid of being late, while Ren Nan was dropped off by his father. Zhang Xun was walking perfectly fine. Su Ruo prayed for her parents to bless her. Arriving at the bus stop, she caught a florist bullying Zhang Chuan. It turned out he was buying flowers to wish her luck on the exam. The florist mocked the intellectually disabled man for dreaming about the school beauty. Su Ruo thanked Zhang Chuan and handed the florist a 10 yuan bill. Unexpectedly, her admission ticket accidentally fell out of her pocket when she pulled out the money. She asked Zhang Chuan to hold the flowers and promised to pick them up after the exam. Arriving at the school gate, Su Ruo finally realized her ticket was missing. Panicking, she asked Xingchen what to do. She was absolutely certain she had brought it. She took bus number 82 and came straight to school. Xingchen immediately ran off to help her find it. He retraced the route from the school to the bus stop. At that moment, Zhang Xun walked by and urged him to hurry to his own exam. Suddenly, the most painful rainy night flashed into his mind. He had traveled through time repeatedly to save her, but right when they confessed their feelings, he vanished right before her eyes. Xingchen thanked his friend and sprinted off to find her ticket. He remembered that in the future, the class president mentioned someone found the ticket and gave it to the thief. Police. After the first subject, the police brought it to school for her. However, they could not get the name of the person who found it. Therefore, he guessed the finder might not communicate normally. Right then, he ran into Zhang Chuan and asked why he was there. Zhang Chuan explained. She told him to wait to give her the flowers. but he wanted to go to the police to turn in her admission ticket. Breathing a massive sigh of relief, Xingchen immediately rushed the ticket back to school. He had finally managed to save her future in time. Overjoyed, she tightly hugged the man she loved. Mr. Zhang urged the two students to hurry inside. Xingchen held her hand tightly as they walked into the school. He promised to tell her something important after the exam. He never expected the essay prompt that year to be exactly what he wanted to say to his past self. Xingchen immediately wrote a message to himself. He wrote that he must be confident, not because he would achieve massive success in the future. He must also be brave, even if the final love letter he sent yielded no results. He must care for others, even if no one could define his kindness. He must persist in being himself, even if the world crushed him into pieces. He must learn to make peace with the world, even if it never offered him peace. He also had to learn to take responsibility, even when it suffocated him. Everyone in the past or future was going through their own big and small struggles, but everyone kept their heads held high and moved forward in their own way, and so they left resilient marks in the flow of life. They were never alone, because they had each other. The present Xingchen was following a faint light from the future to write every single word on this exam paper. This was incredibly difficult, but still not as hard as the rest of his life would be. Therefore, he had to keep going. Right after finishing, he felt dizzy, fearing he would return to the future without saying those important words to her. He handed in his paper early to go find her. He remembered Hao Hui warning that his life could drastically change by returning to the past this time. However, for the woman he loved, he was willing to sacrifice everything. Whether he returned to the future or faded away right now, he accepted it all. He asked Mr. Zhang to deliver a letter to Su Ruo. Then he collapsed onto his teacher's shoulder. Finally, the 2001 college entrance exam came to an end. Su Ruo chased after Xingchen, asking what he wanted to tell her. Looking into his eyes, she instantly realized this was not the Xingchen she had been talking to recently. Half a month later, Su Ruo wore a white dress to the class reunion. Everyone complimented her gentle look, while Xingchen stared at her unblinking. Zhangshan teased Zhang Jie for rushing to get a perm. Right after graduating, Hao Hui was confident about getting into Tsinghua University, so he was researching the school early. Su Ruo turned to look at Xingchen, but he quickly lowered his head to look in his desk drawer. At that moment, he finally noticed his own note, but had no memory of writing it. Su Ruo mentioned he once gifted her a book, but it was confiscated by Mr. Zhang. She asked him to get it back as a graduation present for her. Right then, the teacher walked in to congratulate his students. He had previously promised to return all confiscated items after the exams. Soon after, he pulled out the book Xingchen brought. Inside was a portrait of Su Ruo. The teacher guessed Xingchen drew it, but he denied it. Mr. Zhang urged him to come up and take the book back. Afterward, the teacher gave his final words to the class. He knew the past year felt incredibly long, but time was relative. He wanted his students to remember that the future was not far away. In just over a decade, they would be his current age. Therefore, he hoped they would always remember their youth and beautiful friendships. After saying their goodbyes, everyone left one by one. Zhangshan promised to see them all again. Hao Hui did not know what to say, so he simply waved goodbye. Rennan looked longingly at Su Ruo before leaving. Su Ruo continued waiting for Xingchen, but his eyes remained completely unchanged. At that moment, Mr. Zhang handed her the letter. Xingchen left on exam day. In the letter, he revealed that she had died in his world. That was why he traveled back in time to find her. He once told her he had a second personality, but that was a lie. The truth was, he wanted to change her fate. He wanted her to live happily and see the people around her clearly. Everything he did was just so she could live. He strictly warned her never to rent an apartment in the Zhanshe residential area. Honestly, he should have told her the truth the very first time he returned, but even now, he did not know if she would believe these crazy words. If she was still suspicious, he could reveal that the class president would score 618 points and get into the finance department at Zhongcheng University. He felt deeply fulfilled that he managed to return her admission ticket in time. He firmly believed she would definitely get into a good college. The only thing he never expected was that she also liked him in the past. Even though he had not heard her answer directly, he wanted to be selfish just this once. Right then, the past Xingchen suddenly appeared. He asked why she was crying alone here. He then mentioned he did poorly on the literature exam, so he planned to ask Mr. Zhang about retaking a year. She encouraged him, fully believing he would get into a great school. Xingchen tightly gripped the paper in his hand to gather the courage to confess his feelings. She asked once more if he was trying to say he liked her. Finally, she got a timid nod from him. She confirmed she received his confession and promised to wait for him. She also asked him to wait for her too. In a dream, Xingchen saw himself finally holding her hand. He woke up in his own bed. Stepping out outside, he noticed his house was different. Even his phone had changed. He searched for the funeral notification message, but it had finally vanished. Her 2 missed calls were also gone. His future had indeed changed, and most importantly, he had likely saved the woman he loved. Everyone was working hard to grow up. Only Xingchen felt he had been left behind a bit. He lost his dream job, but in return, his mother discovered her illness early and received timely treatment. Ningjing and her mother also lived a different life. He went to meet the class president and asked about Mr. Jiang. She mentioned the teacher found a tumor early and was preparing for a minor surgery. She recalled how he rarely contacted his classmates over the years. However, she understood that retaking a year made him feel like he was a year younger than everyone else. She asked if he still kept in touch with Su Ruo. It turned out she had quietly gone abroad a long time ago. He guessed she was hiding or waiting for something. At the class reunion, he searched for her. Renan heard she had not returned to the country yet. He offered to sing a sweet song about youth for everyone. Amidst the joyful atmosphere, Xingchen remained quiet. A void lingered in his heart. He was waiting for someone to return and fill those happy memories from years ago. Later, he visited the old wonton shop. At that moment, a voice called out, noting the shop had finally opened for business. Turning his head, he saw Su Ruo standing right in front of him. They had finally waited long enough to return to each other's side. The movie ends here. Thank you for your interest and for watching. Goodbye, and see you next time.